Hello, I'm David Frost, one of the co-directors of the HertsCam Network. And I'm making a little presentation today about empowering and enabling teachers as agents of change. Why is it important to enable and empower teachers as agents of change? What's the rationale for that? Well, first of all, if we're interested in education reform, we have to be concerned about how those ideas coming from the centre, perhaps, from the government, perhaps, are translated into actual classroom practice. And of course, it's the teachers who have to adapt what they do in classrooms. So they are in a key position, and we must concern ourselves with how teachers can put things into practice. Secondly, if we want to improve the level, the standard, the quality of teaching and learning across the school, then teachers are the people best placed to work with their colleagues across the school to work in harmony to improve the school performance as a whole. Thirdly, it's teachers who can learn from their experience of developing practice and then can build knowledge within the system by sharing stories about what they're doing with other teachers in other schools. So collectively, the system becomes more knowledgeable about teaching and learning and about innovation. Fourthly, if teachers are enabled to be agents of change within a school, it changes the professional culture in that school because it cultivates the habits of collaboration, teachers working together to find new ways of practicing improvements in their practice. Fifth, it is said that this way of working, because it maximizes voice and participation, it actually promotes democratic ways of life, democratic values, if you like, and ways of working. And lastly, this is a low-cost, sustainable solution to the problem of reform. It isn't a quick fix, it's something which builds over time, and it costs very little because what you're doing is mobilizing the capacity within the profession. So what I'm suggesting is that the methodology we call the teacher-led development work methodology is the key to empowering and enabling teachers as agents of change. So first principle is that anybody can participate. Anybody within a school who is working in a professional capacity. It could be a teacher, it could be an assistant to a teacher, it could be somebody who has a formal leadership responsibility. It doesn't matter what their position is, they can join in. And they're invited to join support groups. It's a voluntary thing. They're invited to join a support group where they can meet at times that are convenient to them within their school, perhaps at the end of the teaching day, so that the life of the school is not disrupted and it's easy for the teachers to participate. Third, it's facilitated by people who have themselves been teachers. Experienced teachers within the school make really excellent facilitators, provided they have the right tools and the right kind of induction program. And they do this through a series of workshops that they lead for their colleagues within the school-based support group. And they're provided, these facilitators are provided with a suite of tools which enable the teachers to engage in reflection and discussion and planning of their own projects. So it's not an instruction approach where the facilitator is an expert. The facilitator may be expert, but in the process of enabling the teachers to develop their own solutions to problems. In addition to the workshops, the facilitators will also provide one-to-one tutorials, coaching sessions, if you will. This enables the teachers to build a project of their own. So it's individualized development projects, not a single project where all teachers work on the same thing, but each teacher in the group has their own project, which is informed by their own values and their own concerns. And they, of course, study as they go when they need to. They find out what the latest practice is, what the latest innovation is on a given problem, depending on what they want to concentrate on. So They then go and manage these projects, and they do it through collaborative processes. So each teacher in the group will go to seek collaborative relationships with further colleagues beyond the group. Maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or more teachers will join them to help them with that project, which of course then increases the impact within the school. And the teachers, each of them will compile evidence of what they're doing in a portfolio, and when they submit their portfolio at the end of the year, they can be awarded a certificate. Typically, we award the certificate in teacher leadership. So beyond that, they in the group will be invited to take part in networking events with colleagues in other schools, so they can share stories about the projects they're leading and all learn from that together. I want to suggest there are 2 different models for using this approach in different situations around the world. First model, an open agendas model, if you like. Here, you would typically have these school-based groups that I've talked about, where there are participants within the school, maybe 8 or 10 or even 12 teachers within a given school will belong to that group. And there may be 2 people within the school who are experienced teachers, possibly vice principals, for example, who would facilitate in these workshops, meetings at the end of the school day within the school, face-to-face meetings. And of course, it depends on the school principal, the school director, the head teacher, whatever they're called in your particular country. It would depend on them being supportive, encouraging, and trying to create the environment where teacher leadership is encouraged and is acceptable. So the projects, as I've said before, would arise from the concerns of each individual within the group. It's a personal thing for them. What are they most interested in? What are they most concerned about? And they then work with colleagues. They go around and consult with colleagues, and they say to colleagues, so I think this is a problem I'd like to do some work on. What do you think? And through this consultation, they build collaborative relationships with their colleagues, but they also make sure that what they want to do and how they're going to do it actually is a good fit with that particular school. And then they, of course, share the stories about their projects with colleagues in other schools through networking events. I think model 1, the open agendas model, has many advantages. One big advantage is that if it is a group within one school, it creates a critical mass of teachers who are leading change and working with colleagues. And this really can have an impact on the professional culture of that school. And it's very convenient for participants if it's located in their school. If the workshops take place at the end of their teaching day, they can just, after their teaching, just turn up to wherever the room is for the meetings, and it's easy to do. And of course, if they have their own agenda, their own focus, then their sense of agency is mobilized. They become passionate and enthusiastic about that particular problem. And so, of course, they put lots of energy and care into it. And of course, senior leaders in the school can know about each of those projects and make sure there is some kind of synergy between them, make sure there's synergy between the teachers' projects and the overall goals of the school. So you get the result there that many aspects of practice across the school are improved. So the whole performance level of the school is improved. And of course, as I've said before, this is a very low cost type of approach compared to other programs for teachers. Disadvantages? Well, there's certainly one disadvantage, which is if you only have one school doing it, then there's no one to network with. Ideally, you want several groups in several schools starting at once so that they have the opportunity to meet and to engage in networking. That's perhaps the only snag if you start with just one school. A second model I would call a common agenda model. So here you could have participants in many schools, not necessarily just in one town, but maybe in quite a wide region. And you might have a common focus to address a particular priority. So, for example, education for sustainable development would be such a common focus. Or formative assessment. We are currently involved in a project with Education International about formative assessment. Or it might be literacy. There are any number of topics, but it would depend on the interest of some kind of external body. So the support groups would meet, of course, not in the one school, but in some central place. And this would be about choosing a place where the teachers could come together, which is convenient to them, at a time and a place that is convenient to them. Of course, there is an online element. I assume here you could have an online support approach and an online networking opportunity. Again, you want to be facilitated by experienced teachers, but perhaps working alongside people with particular expertise in whatever that common focus is. One-to-one tutorials, again by the experienced teachers in the participant schools. There's a need for that one-to-one conversation to help each teacher pursue their project. And the materials to explain the particular focus. This is important because in this particular circumstance, you would want everybody to be working to this common agenda. So there would need to be something which explains what that agenda is, so that each teacher can then find some part of that they feel they can contribute to. So each individual would reflect on their concerns, their values, and say, okay, I can see how I can fit into this common agenda and make that contribution. So with the common agenda model 2, you have some clear advantages, I think. First of all, you have the possibility that there could be a priority identified by external agencies. So that might be a government priority, for example, or particular donors might be interested in a particular initiative. And therefore, because of that, they might be prepared to put in some funding to support such an initiative. Of course, such a thing, if it's across a region with just a few teachers here and a few teachers there, you could have a lot of online support, which makes it efficient. And therefore, you could touch many schools across a very wide territory. The disadvantages, however, first of all, it's very difficult to establish new practice and get it embedded and established within a school if you've only got one teacher or possibly two teachers who are part of this program. How can they actually influence colleagues across the whole school and make sure that new practice is embedded? That's quite difficult. And of course, if the topic, the focus is not something that they have come up with themselves, then their agency isn't quite as strong as where the teacher has identified their own agenda. So their agency is perhaps a little bit compromised. And of course, this approach is more costly than the strictly school-based model, because you would need some expertise on the particular common agenda. You might need a venue for them to meet some of the time, which again, there are costs attached to that. And then, of course, to the participants themselves, if they have to attend meetings that might be in a government building or a university building or somewhere else, or a union building, for example, then there's a cost to that, and there's the challenge of actually travelling to such a meeting. So let me just say something about HertsCam Network. We are a non-profit, a charity, a British charity, and therefore we can negotiate collaborations with other organisations, and we have done so many times in the past. And we have a large team of people who are experienced facilitators, who are teachers within schools, or people who have just stepped out of teaching for a while, but they're rooted in schools and they are experienced in facilitating this approach. We have partners in other countries too. We have been able over the years to initiate programs in many countries, including Kazakhstan, in Egypt, in many countries in Western Balkans and so on. And we are connected to a number of universities. My own background is in the world of the University of Cambridge, and I'm in constant dialogue with colleagues in other universities around the world and in the UK. So that I think might be worth bearing in mind. Finally, if you'd like to know more about HertsCam, please visit our website, and you can find various publications there in a variety of languages which you might want to download. So these books some of them are available in Arabic, in Russian, in Serbian, as well as in English, and they're free and available to people through our website. Thank you.